as we get into adulthood, these patterns are there, and they're unhealthy patterns. But what's really curious and what's really interesting about this stuff, no matter what traumas that we experience in childhood, or whatever patterns we develop to adapt to those traumas or these situations where we feel we're unsafe or unprotected, we develop these character styles, these skills and abilities, right? They're kind of like little superhuman gifts and abilities that we learn to develop in order to feel safe. Now, we get to take those with us. So as we grow older and we learn to resolve these traumas and sort of integrate these things, these fractured aspects of ourselves, these personality patterns and personality structures, we get to keep the gifts and we don't have to fall into the patterns anymore. So now it's like we have this little special thing in my toolbox, right? Where one of the things that I developed was the maladaptive pattern is that the pattern was not to really be able to accept others' help, right? And to be able to really get the support that I'm looking for.
Or ask for it.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, because I learned that if I asked for it or if I needed somebody else's support, I wasn't going to get it. I got let down. I got disappointed. That's my perception anyway, right? That was the story.
And I have the same thing. And it's like, oh, it's weak to ask for anybody
exactly.
help. You should do it by yourself.
Exactly. So that's maladaptive as we get older, but the gift in that is that if for whatever reason you needed to do something by yourself and there literally was no support, no help, you can do it. Mm-hmm. So it's a really cool gift to step into if we need to, but it's maladaptive if we continue to rely on it when in fact we do have support. We shut it down because we learned it's not safe or it's actually not there. And so these are the patterns, and we all have them. So it's interesting to sort of reflect and look at yourself and what is it that my personality has built in order to keep me safe as a child that I'm now carrying with me as an adult. Mm-hmm. So this is important to recognize because these maladaptive patterns are an inefficient use of energy, right? Again, we have a limited supply of energy, all of us, whether we're 6 or whether we're 92, whatever that supply of energy that it is that we have, we want to use it effectively and not waste it, right? So it's really about using this energy effectively. And that's really what we're looking at here when it comes to these patterns and these traumas. They set up a situation where we're not using energy effectively. Now, the interesting thing about these traumas that we experience now, we have these new challenges in the 21st century, right? So if you and I were to have the same traumas in childhood 250 years ago, that does have a result on our behavior and our lifestyle. And for sure, it's going to have certain aspect to our biology. But now we live in an environment with toxic chemicals and metals, artificial lighting, man-made EMF. Our food distribution is kind of a mess. We've got too much tech, right? We have way too much tech in our life. We're hyper stimulated.
I have and everything's wearables on me right now.
Exactly. Right. And that's the track.
All my biometrics. I have an implantable blood glucose.
Exactly. So these 21st century health challenges really are coupled with those patterns that we develop from these traumas. So we're living in a, I say this loosely. We're living in an environment where you almost have to be perfect in order to be healthy, right? And again, I say that loosely, but it kind of is that way, right? You can't buy this. You got to do this. Don't use that. Use this instead. How much does this have in there? You got to use. You have to be hyper aware. So as you have these traumas and these patterns that built up, they're more likely to result in engaging with our environment in a poor way. So this is the thing that we really need to concern ourselves with in this modern world, is they couple really nicely when it comes to disease. So we really need to be mindful and cleaning up the traumas and the patterns and getting us back to a state where we can cope with things effectively actually helps us avoid some of these 21st century health challenges, right? Yeah. You probably don't have an issue with avoiding these poor food choices, right? And going to McDonald's all the time and drinking soda nonstop. But some of us do, because we have traumas that are creating patterns and belief systems that make it very difficult for us to make the right choice with our food. You know what I mean? So how many people out there know that eating broccoli and celery and grass-fed beef and all these things is a healthier option. But so many of us don't, because we have these things blocking us emotionally, belief system wise, or mentally. So it's a really, really interesting paradigm that we're in, and it's really important that we address the core of some of these things, because it's not necessarily the 21st century challenges that we're facing. It's the motive behind them that is really engaging with that.